got Brad Kearns in the house. Welcome to our webinar about all things Primal Fitness Coach. Thank you for joining us. I've got my eye on the chat. If anyone wants to just give a little shout out, hey, good to see you. Let us know where you're from. Let us know whether you're a PHC or whether you're somebody from outside our little community. I'd love to know that. I've also got my eye on the Q&A. Multitasking is something I've gotten better at over time. So hopefully I can do all this. So we're going to talk about what is a primal fitness coach. We're going to talk about how it's different than just being a personal trainer. I have my opinion. I would love your opinion. And the benefits of just kind of this concept of primal fitness compared to kind of traditional means. Let's see. Suzanne, chat is disabled. It is?
I just chatted. I can see my hi everyone chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's disabled for her.
Turn off my
Q&A. Suzanne, chat is disabled. Bummer.
We will. I'll take a look while Brad is doing his dealie and kind of introducing himself. I'll try to see if I can figure out why it might be disabled for you, and we'll figure that part out.
Well, Q&A works, so that's good, Suzanne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Another person says chat is disabled.
That's weird. Okay, so you can feel free to type stuff in the Q&A then, kids, because I've got my eye on both, and then I'll figure out why chat's disabled. That's kind of weird. Maybe I need to.
Wonder what the difference is.
Let's see. No, it says I have it on. That's me replying. Attendees can chat. Yes, with everyone. Jeez. All right, now I'll give that a try. I changed a setting. Okay, we all know that Laura is not the technology expert. Please forgive me.
Oh, beautiful.
We're
chatting. We're chatting like crazy. Who needs a Q&A when you have a chat?
Okay, now we're really rolling. I should
do we have any questions from the group? Nope, everyone's just chatting away.
Oh, Sheila's watching from the UK. Sean Baker's now in. Yay. And Trevor says hi from Vermont. Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Keep it rolling. Gabriel PHC from Charlotte. Hi from New Jersey. Oh my gosh, we got people from Oregon, all over the place. All right, so we are going to actually give you a sneak peek inside as to what's actually in the course. I've got my little thing up. Hopefully it'll let me share my screen. Otherwise, we'll have to do it verbally. We'll figure it out. And then I want to get into too, like how I think this can prepare people to build a better career as a fitness professional than the traditional CPTs. And again, I hold a CPT. It was a good course and it taught me what it taught me, but there are some things that Erin and I talk about on our podcast about how kind of the way current courses are, some of the missing pieces that we hope to address in here. Hi from New Zealand. Hello, Dallas. Okay. So let's start with you, Brad. So Brad and I met when I first started at Primal, right? I first came on and I think I was introduced to you via email. And I think maybe I met you at Mark's house or something, one of the first times I came into town. So it's been a whirlwind these last 6 years. And when we finally answered the bell to produce a fitness certification, this was something that was on our horizon, something we wanted to do for a number of years, but we didn't have the bandwidth for it. We finally were like, all right, how are we going to get this done? And in a perfect world, who would we get to write it? And our first answer was Brad Kearns. And we were lucky enough that you were willing and able to do it. So thank you very much, Brad Kearns, for writing this for us. Let everybody know a little bit of your bio and your background and kind of, I'll say why we think you were the perfect person to write it. But, I think you can put that in perspective for us too.
Thanks, Laura. How fun to be here. My background and my bio. Well, I've been in this game for a long time and working with Mark Sisson side by side since 2008 to promote the primal lifestyle and writing the books together for so long. And it's been a wonderful journey, especially to see the explosion of the ancestral health movement in recent years and how it's now become somewhat familiar to the mainstream. I'm not going to say it's mainstream, but if you're sitting next to someone on an airplane and you mention something about primal paleo, ancestral health, they can nod their head. And boy, when we started and when Mark started the blog back in 2006, we started writing together in 2008 and published the Primal Blueprint in 2009. The mainstream publishers laughed in our face And if you didn't have an MD, you had no credibility. We hired a PR firm to get Mark on TV and promote his book, and he got turned down left and right and upside down because, like, who's this clown? Why is he saying the doctors are inaccurate with their health and dietary advice? So it's been a royal battle. And it's it's wonderful because it gives you a purpose in life to realize how we've been programmed and brainwashed, and there's so many things that are objectionable in mainstream health. And I come to this world from the athletic world. And in fact, Mark and I go way back because he coached me when I was a professional triathlete. So I went to school, I studied accounting, I got a job, I got a suit and tie on, and it was complete misery to me. And I dreamed of, just pursuing my athletic goals. And I had the good fortune of racing on the pro triathlon circuit for 9 years and had some great achievements and high accomplishments. And I also had a ton of setbacks and failure and reckoning and recalibrating because I was pushing my body too hard in this extreme sport. And I had to realize that health and fitness are not the same thing, that you're obligated to manage and regulate your competitive intensity rather than just thinking that if I can be as badass as possible and wake up every day and train harder than anyone, I'm going to be the best in the world. No, you're going to be injured and burnt out. And the reason I'm giving you these details about my athletic career is because it frames my perspective on everything that I do every single day. And it's such a wonderful way to learn the lessons of success and failure and stress management and life balance, because you get slapped in the face if you're slightly off in any way. And so I guess we should skip forward to the Primal Fitness Coach Certification and the things we've been working on here, because what I see for so long looking in the fitness industry and being part of it, there's a lot of hype and gimmicks and marketing driven messages that we've been brainwashed to associate fitness with pain and suffering and struggle and sweaty bodies, high-fiving the person next to you, and then you walk out of the gym or you finish your home workout and you are a good person now because you pushed your body really hard, and everyone else who doesn't, those lazy asses that sit on the couch and eat potato chips, that's kind of what we're brainwashed to think is you got to get off your lazy ass and get a sweat going and work your muscles or run a certain number of miles. And now we have a bunch of wearables to tell us how good we are and how many brownie points we get. But as Mark has communicated wonderfully for so long, we've both been there and done that and had this experience of being injured, struggling, burnt out athletes because we pushed our bodies too hard. And when you look at traditional fitness programming from that perspective, boy, it's easy to shake your head, because I think by and large, we're doing a disservice to the average, highly motivated, goal-oriented person that wants to go and get in shape and go hire a trainer and get a 12-pack of workouts, or go be a good attender at the local CrossFit box or the local boot camp class. And so I'm going to make this sweeping statement that the majority of commercial fitness programming is inherently overly stressful to the average participant. And there's not enough respect for the importance of stress-rest balance, the importance of kind of reflecting on all the other stress factors in our life and how those integrate into our workout decisions. And so if you glance at the list of chapters in the Primal Fitness Coach Certification, we dedicate a whole chapter to things like breathing. We have a whole chapter on overreaching, overtraining. We have a chapter on recovery, rest, downtime, how to conduct a recovery-based workout where you're going to the gym not to crush yourself, but to actually rejuvenate your body and walk out of there feeling better than when you went in a way that's more authentic than walking out of there feeling buzzed on stress hormones because you drove yourself to a high level in the spin class at the instructor's urging and the pulsating music. And there's a place to push your body and challenge your body and work hard and break through these limits that we have in our mind. But I think by and large, we glorify that, and we forget that these are living, breathing people, some of them in the novice level, and even some of them at the very high performing level that routinely push their bodies too hard and fall short of potential and also maximum enjoyment.
100%. So, I mean, look, I mean, many people that are on this webinar, not all, might know that I owned a CrossFit gym for a number of years. I really just enjoy CrossFit, but I've learned the hard way of the impact of doing that kind of workout 5 days a week, particularly as I got older, right? I mean, you hit a point in your trajectory where, I feel pretty good. I'm getting stronger. I feel like I'm fitter. And then all of a sudden things like I don't, my gains aren't as well. I'm starting to notice some gain, like some weight around my belly that I never really had before. Not a lot, but it's there. And I'm like, where did that come from? Hello, cortisol. But like, my sleep got disrupted a bit. Like there are these other little things that you hit a point of diminishing returns after a while, that kind of intensity, when done too often without enough rest, you don't get anywhere near the same benefit, or you start to look fitter, your body looks different, but then other things are lacking. And a prime example of this is one of the women who's kind of one of the lead managers at a gym that I help coach at here. She and I were talking. She's a competitor, right? She competes in CrossFit competitions. She hasn't had a period in a long time. And when she does get them, they're very sporadic. And I'm sitting there thinking, I just asked her a question. Hey, do you think there's a connection with your training volume? Oh, well, I cut back my workout yesterday. I didn't do the same workout. I just did this different. I'm like, oh my God, you need like a day off, but it's not, that has not been taught in the fitness industry at all. And I love the way you frame this. And this is something that maybe we can speak to a bit when we get into kind of this idea of coaching, is that, fitness is a stressor on the body, and it needs to fit in with all the other stressors that you have in your life, right? Plus all the other things that kind of roll up into your lifestyle. And this is where sort of the role of kind of coach comes in. So, one of the things we listed on here that we were going to talk about is, what is a fitness coach? Because it's different than a trainer, right? Do you have some thoughts on that? I have some thoughts, but I wanted to see what kind of your perspective was, because when we were first talking about this webinar, we were like, you can kind of cover that portion, and I will, but I'm just like, at first blush, how would you
first blush? Yeah, you could say like the trainer's with you for an hour and the coach is thinking about you and your life of 168 hours per week and all the parameters that you've communicated on this two-way street. And I've had great coaches like Mark Sisson when I was a triathlete, and I know how to do the workouts. I didn't need Mark to tell me that I run 2 times around the track in this speed and recover this time. I mean, of course, we talked about those things, and that's part of being a coach, is coaching the workout. But again, just like my generalization with the fitness industry predicated on struggling and suffering, a lot of times the coach athlete or the trainer athlete relationship is focused on the logistics, which to me, if I made a top 20 list of the most important things, number 17 or number 18 would be how many reps, how many sets, what's the warm-up like. I mean, this stuff is important, but first we have to go down the list, like you're talking about your client that has suffered from amenorrhea. That's clearly a sign of overtraining. And it's suboptimal in so many ways, especially the health compromising effects of pushing for peak performance. So you're going to talk about that difference between a coach and a trainer. But one thing that occurs to me here to interject is that we now have a lot of improvement in the world of the elite athletes, the top performers in the NBA, the NFL. I went to the World Track and Field Championships in Eugene last month, and it was just stunning to watch these great athletes in person, the greatest runners. And they have figured out how to take care of their bodies, how to train more intelligently, how to recover faster. And so world records are being broken left and right. And what these athletes are showing us is that even when they're the very best in the world, and their training regimens are extraordinary. I mean, the CrossFit queens and kings of the CrossFit games were here like, wait a second, that guy just ran a 6-minute mile with a 20-pound weight vest. And now he's doing 200 handstand push-ups. Oh my goodness. I mean, they have taken fitness to the highest level that we've ever seen in the history of the earth. And like, what are they doing right? they're working well within their capabilities at all times. They're not the ones puking on the side of the track like you see in the movies with Rocky Balboa or whatever. And so if we can just model this idea to work within our own capabilities at all times, rather than going and pushing harder because the trainer wants you to, or the class and the music is encouraging you to go beyond this wonderful sweet spot where you're walking out of these workouts and you're getting a checkpoint at 24 hours or 36 hours and you feel fine, rather than feel wiped out because of the cumulative effects of an overly stressful exercise program.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to share with watching what the best are doing and understanding and taking that lesson appropriately, because sometimes we misinterpret and misappropriate what we see the elites are doing because they talk about their training. And it's like Kipchoge, the greatest marathon runner of all time, he runs 20 miles every single day, and it's at a pretty fast pace, 6-minute pace, 5:30 pace. And so we think, wow, I guess you really have to push yourself to be the best marathoner. But it's like, wait a second, look at his heart rate and compare that as a percentage of maximum to you, the individual. That means that most of your training should be a jog walk rather than a brisk jog with your running group that you love, going and checking your mile splits or 8:40 or 9:20. You're working too hard. And in fact, you're working relatively harder than the greatest athlete on the planet. So there's something wrong with that picture when average Joe is literally pushing his or her body harder than Matthew Fraser, winner of CrossFit Games, or Eliud Kipchoge or Usain Bolt, or whoever we want to reference.
You know, what a great distinction, because that's so true. When you see people like in the moment at a they've trained to get there, first of all. And what you see them do in competition is very different than how they just train within their normal training cycle. They train to put out that kind of output once, right? And they probably won't put out that kind of output again for a long time. The rest of their training, I love that framing within their own capability, because that is so true. And this is what we can do as coaches. The way I kind of frame to your exact point, when I at the gym, I try to tell all of my athletes, I call them athletes because I want them to be in that mindset that I only have you for an hour. It's what you're also doing the other 23 hours that I don't have as much influence over unless I'm your coach and not just your trainer. Right. And so this is where we can sit down and have a conversation about where this training falls in line with their overall goal, where they're trying to accomplish, and what else they need to be doing to get there. This is just one tool. The fitness aspect of what we're doing is one tool in their overall health and wellness journey. And as coaches, we're trained to put all that together and to help our clients keep their fitness and their training in context of the entire picture. And if we're finding that, you know what, we're showing signs that, you know, this used to come up too. There was one athlete in my old gym that I used to send home all the time. I'm like, you have been here every day. You need to, you know, stop. So she went home. She went out for a run. I'm like, that's not a day off. You know, so it's one from the standpoint of being a coach, when we're going to talk about in the course material about signs of overtraining and helping our clients understand that the benefit of what you're working them through, the training, is coming in the recovery aspect rather than what's in the gym. The benefit of what they do in the gym comes in the recovery process. And from the standpoint of coach, those of you that are already PHCs have taken our coaching training, or you're in the middle of it. So you're going to understand sort of the mindset work and helping your client uncover the emotional connection that they either have to exercise or perhaps an aversion to it, and helping to understand how you can move the client farther down their own fitness journey. We've got to interject coaching into this sort of fitness realm so that we don't have people that are, I see it all the time, people that come back and go off the wagon and then come back, or they try the next gym hoping the next workout's going to stick, when the problem isn't the workout, right? The problem is something else in terms of, are their goals a little too unrealistic? Or is it not really fitting into their lifestyle and they don't have the energy they need to do other things? Is there somebody in their life that's not supportive enough for them to be able to show up? You know, where is it? So this is where the coaching component comes in. And we also, and we'll talk about this towards the end on how to prepare you to do more, why understanding the business of fitness is so important, and how to do that. So let's talk. You've already kind of touched on the benefits of kind of Primal and how it's different than the traditional kind of fitness mindset. I've taken multiple fitness courses. I know you've been an athlete, have probably taken some courses. So how would you describe what it is you helped, what it is you wrote from the course perspective and the training perspective, how it's different?
Well, I think there's so many wonderful trainings you can take to become expert at TRX or kettlebells or a triathlon certified coach with USA Triathlon. And all those skills are very important. But I do think this offering is different because it's kind of focused on the big picture lifestyle aspects of leading a healthy, fit, active lifestyle and acknowledging that the nuts and bolts, the mechanics are important, but you can't kind of take those in isolation and expect best results. So we have a chapter about squatting and deadlifting and describing the various variations on each exercise and how to do them with precise technique instruction and a lot of video instruction so you can actually know your way around a gym after you complete the course. But I think the modules are organized in a manner where you're building this perspective that fitness is about your everyday activity, perhaps even more so than what you do that 1 hour in the gym. And so when you have an entire module on posture, movement fundamentals, spinal integrity, how to actually sit and stand and reach and bend in everyday life, that's kind of important to walk into the gym with those skills in your arsenal and also part of your teaching offering, because you can go in the gym and get super ass injured if you don't have correct movement mechanics and fundamentals and things like breathing. And so I think that's going to be fun for someone who might have some existing expertise in fitness. Maybe they're certified in this or that. I know coming from the triathlon scene that there was a lot of examples of people who were very aerobically competent, right? They could get on a bike and pedal for 100 miles without stopping. And so they had that feather in their cap. But then, they're hunched over on the bike, they're hunched over off the bike. They have no other fitness capability except for this extreme endurance capability. And so if that's what you're going for is kind of this narrow slice of pie, that's great. And I don't want to judge that. I mean, we can have fun, denigrating people who are doing overly stressful lifestyle behaviors and shaking our heads. But if you just want to blow off steam and burn calories, that's okay. But if you want something different from fitness and you want fitness to ooze over into all areas of your life, and so you're going to learn about the stand-up desk and the ancestral resting positions on the ground. And right now I'm participating in the webinar from my stand-up desk, but right below me I have this cool bean bag. It's called a meditation cushion that I got on Amazon, and then a little laptop stand. So I go from standing to sitting on the ground to sitting in a chair to sitting in a nice comfortable couch with a bunch of pillows. Like, that's okay too. But what we're going for is variation in our daily behaviors, especially our workplace. And having that be, right there, front and center on the same ranking level as your amazing upcoming workout that's coming at 5 p.m. that you can't wait to go slam. And so that's kind of, we're stepping out of the narrowness of fitness programming into a broad-based lifestyle approach.
Yeah. So, I mean, from someone who's coached a lot of people in the classes that I've taught or what have you, I would venture to say there are more people on a percentage basis that don't move very well than there are people that move very well just naturally, because many of us have had, to your point, the correct posture knocked out of us because of how much time we spend sitting, how much, this whole kind of hunched over posture is so common, and, if I'm a trainer and I'm trying to work on squat mechanics with my client, I'm not going to add load to that until I know they can squat properly and they have proper ankle mobility to even squat. So we need to be able to address these things first and be able to target that and have a conversation and make that a part of your training program.
Yeah, we had an incredible awakening on set one day when we're filming, and these videos are very top quality because we had this gentleman who he's a longtime Hollywood producer and filmmaker and cinematographer, and he kind of donated his time. I mean, we paid him a good amount, but it was well below what he would usually charge. So it was really cool to learn the process of making an actual videos that are commercial quality. I mean, he did like commercials for the Winter Olympics that you can see on YouTube and stuff. But anyway, this guy was non-athletic, right? And so we finally got him from behind the camera for part of the video curriculum, and said, "Hey, can you can you be the subject, and we're going to teach you how to deadlift." And so he got a PVC pipe to work with, and I think Chloe was instructing him, saying, "Okay, now keep your back straight and reach down and grab the bar, and then stand up." And every time he reached for the bar, he reflexively arched his back tremendously, like he just hunched over and grabbed the bar. And she's like, "Okay, no, this time, keep your back straight. Let's bend your knees. Let's get your hands in position. Here's how you do it. Okay, ready, lift." And then his back would arch again like a cat and put his spine under tremendous flexion. Luckily, the PVC pipe only weighed a pound, but we're all shaking our head going, not to tease him, but it's like, we have an issue here in America where we don't even have the vocabulary or the basic awareness of proper movement mechanics and spinal safety and those things. And so I think if we could all backpedal a bit, and I'm talking to my triathlon homies too, who are hunched over and, just working the body to the extreme, instead of realizing that if you beat your heart too many times over and over every day, and also eat an inflammatory diet with a lot of processed foods, you're increasing your heart attack risk by virtue of all the miles that you're pedaling or miles that you're running. So again, I'm trying to kind of dip into some of the curriculum, but we teach you how to deadlift and how to teach a novice and all those great things. But before that, we talk about how the spine should stand and how your shoulders need to be in line with your spine at all times. Preserving a straight and elongated spine at all times is a sneak peek of one of the most important things that we convey in the course. And that goes for all manner of fitness and everyday activity. It's a pretty simple takeaway to go, oh, I'm not supposed to, scrunch around. And here's some things that I can take away and teach my kids as they exit the natural phase of life, like ages 0 to 5, where they're showing these incredible running mechanics and everything's natural and beautiful, and they can squat and they can hold the squat position. And then after they get through a couple of years of elementary school, now they're showing the hunched overness, and they're working with their mobile devices and developing all these bad habits that we need to aggressively attack and transition away from.
Yeah. So Catherine's asking, my client base is not athletes. They tend to be older, desk bound, new to strength training, just wanting to age more gracefully. So I love that, Catherine. Thank you for sharing that, because what I love about I guess just the relevance of this course to multiple populations. And this is a very friendly course for people that really just don't identify as an athlete, or that they're particularly athletic, but really at the end of the day, they just want to be fit enough for the life they want to live, that they can walk and move without pain, that they can go to the zoo with their grandchildren, or be able to get down and play with them. How can we kind of work within this population? And we're going to get into how to be able to coach people through certain just foundational functional movements to be able to live a better quality of life. This course is absolutely relevant to that population, but it's also relevant to those of you that are working with athletes that have forgotten how to just move, that they've been overtraining and like a lot of repetitive injuries and things of that nature. They've been training for so long for a sport that they've forgotten just the joy of being able to move without pain and be able to move properly. That's kind of the way I see it. Sheila's saying my clients are also midlifers wanting to be fitter for life.
Yeah, well said. And I'm going to acknowledge something else. And this is referencing close friends, family members. I'm an enthusiastic guy. You can imagine people I rub off on. I have so much excitement for my 40-minute morning exercise routine. You can see it all, and all the workouts that I do. There's 33 consecutive ones. Hey, that's great. And Chloe showed her routine off, and all these things that the extreme fitness freaks are doing. And isn't that great for them? But I do recognize that this this factor of like being motivated, being consistent, and finding something that's doable and sustainable, we have to, gracefully interact with all the forces and pressures in modern life that are throwing us off this wonderful, super fit, active lifestyle. So I'm trying to temper my message and be really careful saying, hey, do as I do. It's awesome. Awesome. I'm a lifelong fitness enthusiast and former athlete. So effing what? I mean, people are dealing with way more daily logistics than any of us can imagine or appreciate. I hear those excuses like, yeah, I haven't worked out in a while because my gym closed due to COVID. I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, my home is filled with fitness opportunities. I have the pull-up bar right here. I have the kettlebell in the corner. What are you talking about? You haven't worked out because of COVID? I'm in better shape than ever because I have more free time because I'm not able to socialize. So with respect to the average person, and that average person who has in many cases been discouraged from failed fitness attempts, let's welcome those all back into the fray here to say, look, if you can devote 5 minutes in the morning to doing something good for yourself and sign up and make a commitment, and it's only 5 minutes, here's something that you can do that's going to be great. We're going to celebrate that start. Who knows, it maybe will progress someday to something more, but I'm really focused on those doable small steps. #1 best-selling book, James Clear, Atomic Habits. It's out right now, and people are talking about it, where he has, like, the people that don't floss their teeth regularly, he suggests that they commit to flossing one tooth every night. That's it, just one. And if you can do that, chances are you'll floss your whole mouth. And it's kind of silly example, but it's an interesting point where if you can commit to a morning routine for 5 minutes, and do it every single day, no matter what. And it could be touching your toes, doing the yoga sun salute. It could be some stretches, some calisthenics, whatever appeals to you that's doable and sustainable. That's something that's really important to put our minds to that, rather than I got to get back to twice a week with my expensive trainer and make sure that I'm not a loser and I feel so bad now because I've fallen off. And there's like this giant chasm between the fit community and the unfit community, rather than kind of let's blend in and get a little bit of fitness going, a little bit of fitness, a little bit of love.
It's funny, over the pandemic, what was the statistic that the average, I'm going to say American, because I think that's what it was, gained something like 28 pounds over the pandemic. And I totally believe it. I went home to Illinois, and a lot of my friends that were really locked down there gained 28 pounds. And that is one of the excuses of my gym, but it's not really an excuse for many of these people. It's true. They don't have this stuff around them. They haven't lived a life of fitness for years. So how can we as coaches work within what we learn within the Primal Fitness Certification on how to actually develop movement strategies for our clients in their home that are within their own capability set, to use your terms. And you're going to learn a lot about this in the course in terms of, again, just proper movement mechanics and how to progress people through. I would love to show them a little bit of the course, Brad. Do you have access to the Thinkific course, or do you just have your outline?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I've signed in yet. So
okay, I have, so I can kind of share my screen and show people, and we can kind of go through it together. Because I want, and again, we only have so much time, but I kind of want to get people an opportunity of the flow and let you kind of have some talking points. So let me.
Yeah, Thinkific is so cool too. I mean, everything's so well organized, and it kind of helps you learn because of the way that things are earmarked and tabbed. And I like the examination process too. We tried not to hit people too hard, but I feel like when you're in that studying mode and you're going to be tested on the material, it's a nice framework to really work hard and try to grasp everything.
Yeah.
And it's also important to know that when anyone is struggling in any way, we have that one-on-one support to make sure you learn this stuff. Or, I love getting the emails from Primal Health Coach too for years, where people are challenging what we're putting in there. It's like, hey, wait a second. How can you talk about, fasting when you're carb restriction, when here's this and here's that? I'm like, wow, good point. Okay, let's put it differently. And we have the capability of altering, revising, editing the material. And so it is kind of a group effort and a group experience rather than us beating down your throat. This is the primal way, and this is how you should do it. I tried really hard, and the experts that supported this course have a lot of real life experience, including myself, including you, including Aaron, including Mark Sisson, everyone involved, Chloe. So we constantly kind of check our message to make sure that it's going to be embraceable by a broad audience. You mentioned that a little bit earlier. So this is, if you're trying to kind of typecast this course, is it for fit people or is it for beginners? It's for everyone. And that I think that rings true in every single chapter. And boy, I mean, the more experience, the more base fitness level you have, the more you're going to soar to great heights. But this is something that can be, learned out of the gate if you have no experience in fitness and you just want to become more competent and maybe someday become a coach. But first things first, let's get you up to speed with, the best practices.
I love it. So I'm going to share my screen here. And then I'm going to switch over to there it goes. Can you guys see?
Oh, nice, Laura.
You see it? Okay. So here we are. So those of you that have been on Thinkific before, that are already PHCs, that have seen kind of what the Thinkific course dashboards looks like. The fitness course is in red. We have a different color for the different course. So these little check marks are how far I've gotten in it so far. I mean, I'm trying to go through it as an actual student, not just someone who helped kind of just go back and forth on the actual content so that I can speak to what the student experience is like. So similar to the actual health coaching course, you're going to gain access to a chapter at a time. We've got like our welcome section, the legal and support stuff, where our announcements are all the same. The educational resources, guys, these are the same ebooks and audio books and archived webinars, how to reach faculty and support are all in here. And then here's this sort of introduction to Primal Fitness. So this is all Brad's content. So the primal approach to fitness and healthy lifestyle, the idea of a fitness coach, and kind of walking the talk. So Brad, as I go through and just sort of click on these chapters, not all of them am I going to be able to open because I have not reached the drip schedule completely through yet, but you can get a feel, you'll be able to see the outline. So Brad, as we go through this, I would love for you to add comments along the way on things you might want to draw out of these. So chapter 1, fitness for health. We've got the introduction chapter where we're kind of making the case for, that's the video. Where we're kind of making the case for there's health and fitness are not necessarily the same thing, right?
Yeah, stuff we've already talked about at the outset here. And I think that was hit pretty well. And I also mentioned some of my objections to the mainstream approach. And so we have these terms like HIIT, high intensity interval training, which by and large is misappropriated. I'm sorry, that's just the that's just the way it is. It's these workouts are very, very beneficial and powerful, and a powerful catalyst for fitness improvement, but not when you overdo it. They'll just break you down and wear you out. So same with steady state cardio. So most fitness programming is either HIIT in a misappropriated manner, basically working too hard, intervals are too long, rest intervals are too short, workouts are done too frequently, or the steady state crowd, which are doing just, walking on the Stairmaster or jogging down the street at a heart rate that's a little bit too elevated to deliver maximum fitness benefits. And so both of those are heading into chronic stress patterns rather than fitness progress.
Yeah. I love that. It's so funny. We were laughing about, I think it was on our podcast, about how they've even taken a simple Tabata and they've managed to bastardize it into something that's not good for you, where a Tabata is like 4 minutes. I mean, you can kind of stack Tabatas on, but they've managed to turn into a 1-hour class. What?
Yeah. And Tabata, Dr. Tabata, who didn't invent it, he didn't invent it, but he published the study. So someone else it should be called something else. I forgot the guy's name, which is a funny aside. But anyway, Dr. Tabata said the challenge is that most people can't make it all the way to 4 minutes. It's like, you just said there's an hour Tabata class, but the guy who published the research says that it's so hard when done in the proper protocol for 4 minutes that even if you just do 3 minutes, it's great. And I've had to learn all this stuff the hard way, because I have so much excitement and enthusiasm, especially here in my adult life and in the master's age group instead of my prime back in the day. I love sprinting. I love high jumping. I get to the track and I'm so excited, and I love, challenging myself and working hard. And then I find out at that 24 or 36 or 48-hour checkpoint, when my calves are still knotted up and I'm walking around hobbling, I find out that's my message that I made a mistake and I pushed myself too hard during that wonderful, exciting, fun workout. And so we have to use our brains and our intuition very carefully here, not just to go and go by your feel. Everyone says, well, I train by feel. Oh, good for you. You're not a robot just going to the schedule. But it even is another dimension above that, where you have to regulate your emotions and how you feel with some logical reasoning, saying, gee, I've been training really well for 3 weeks straight now. Maybe I need an off week, even though I feel fantastic and can't wait to get out there and kick some more ass and beat up on my training partners even more. And so that one is, I have to continually check my competitive intensity at the front door and go out there and perform at that nice sweet spot under my actual capabilities, and do that over and over and build consistency on stuff that isn't that challenging and it's well within me. And that's how you progress over time without these setbacks.
Yeah. I love it. So we're addressing, this initial chapter, I would imagine anyone that's already taken the PHC course is familiar with, but this just goes deeper and provides more color and context. So I heard Alex in here, and we'll go back and maybe address his question a little deeper to the best we can at the end of this. But in terms of creating and understanding that kind of the primal way and why, we address some of that in the primary course, but we get much deeper into the fitness course and providing far more examples. Sheila is talking about aging gracefully, right? We talk about this, adaptations and evolving goals as people get older, whether they are athletes that are transitioning into older, or maybe it's people that have realized, dang, I did not take care of myself. And now I'm 50 years old, 60 years old, and I spent all this time working my tail off to retire, and I can't enjoy my retirement because I feel like garbage, and helping, that people in that stage of the game sort of ease into more movement and understanding how to do that in a way that's safe. But most importantly, they're going to want to come back and do it again, to Brad's point about how you feel like all knotted up and you don't want to get out and move anymore because you're sore and all of these things. So chapter 2 addresses everyday movement, which again, we address at a high level in the health coaching course. We get much deeper into what all this really means and why, and the science behind just moving more every day. Walking is the centerpiece, benefits of increasing movement, formal movement practices. Anything you want to add here, Brad, before I move on to the next one?
Yeah, it looks pretty straightforward. And yeah. I think, this is going against cultural flow and cultural norms. And so I think that's my favorite takeaway, is like, you have to do something about this stuff, because if you just go with the flow, you're going to be sitting on your ass more so than anything else. And whether it's like setting those reminder alarms on your computer, which that's not really my game. I try to be more intuitive about it, but it's these lost simple pleasures that have been swarmed by mobile technology, in my opinion, because I have a lifetime that, half my life predates any form of internet or mobile technology. Right, and then now I know what it's like to be in the mix with all of us. And so we have to kind of reject a lot of popular culture to regain our humanity. And walking is the quintessential form of human locomotion throughout time. It's a big deal. but then we have cars cruising the parking lot at Costco, waiting for a closer space. And so like I'm entering the parking lot and turning away from the building to park as far away as possible. And it's like just a reflexive habit. And some of these things, you know, they make you feel good. You're like, hey, I'm taking a step in the right direction rather than just getting sucked in.
Yep. Then we're going to move into human posture and movement fundamentals. As always, there's our quick facts, our introduction with the video about kind of what this chapter is going to be all about. We're digging into spinal fundamentals here. Did you want to speak to this a little bit? Standing, sitting, lying, bending, extending. I mean, some people, their posture is obviously not right, but sometimes, to your point, that like the cameraman, you don't notice until they go to do something. They go to pick up a bar, or they go to kind of squat down to grab something. But I loved this because it really, as I was kind of reading through a lot of this, it really hit a lot of bells for me about kind of what I notice about just people in my neighborhood, even that I see out walking dogs and things of that nature, creating a dynamic workstation so we're not stuck at a desk all day. And, you know, how can we sort of unwind this when so many of us spend so much time at work? The ancestral resting positions are listed in here. And there's so squatting is in here, kneeling, long sit, side sit, cross. I mean, all of this stuff really kind of breaks down these basic patterns in the video.
That's some fun stuff there. And the concept of ground reaction force, which was a new terminology that I learned when getting into this. And Mark Sisson is particularly interested in this stuff too. In fact, he co-published a scientific paper on the archetypal resting positions or the ancestral resting positions. But basically, when you're doing so much as just sitting on the ground, your muscles are interacting in a way that's delivering fitness benefits versus relaxing into a chair or a couch. And so the chair and the couch are entirely new manufactured elements of humanity, which we didn't have and we don't have today in the third world. And so just like regaining some of this ability to sit on the ground and load your body weight can make a big difference over time. And I'm getting like better at some of the positions, like the cross-legged sit. I could never do it because my knees have built up so much impact trauma from years of running or whatever. And it's like, no big deal. I can't cross-legged sit. I don't like that. But it's like, wait a second, that should be an urgent skill to regain. And so if you have some flaws here where you're not comfortable going down into a deep squat and hanging out there for a minute or two, Kelly Starrett, the popular author and CrossFit and noted trainer and prehab mobility guy, when you go into his CrossFit box in San Francisco as a new client, he gives you the 10-minute squat test, he calls it. Yes, going down into the deep squat and holding it for 10 minutes. And there's very few humans that can do it in the developed world. And it's kind of funny because if you look at the documentaries of the Hadza or whatever, they're sitting there having dinner for an hour in that deep squat position. So human posture and movement fundamentals, a big step, working and inching as Laura's keeps scrolling down the screen, working toward, getting more and more back to or toward, the familiar attributes of how to do a sprint workout. So for me, like creating this course, I'm interested in all this stuff, but there's sort of a different passion and different interest with, say, learning how to sit in a chair versus learning how to slam out some reps doing sprinting. Same with filming everything. And it's like, this is the juicy stuff now. Now we're going to deadlift and load more weight on the bar. And all that's fine to really revel in that and get your competitive juices flowing. But it's also really important to say, how can I walk more in my daily life? It's a big picture.
Absolutely. We also get into breathing properly. Many of us don't, right? How to breathe correctly is an actual piece of this chapter, and tracking your progress with breathing tests, exercises to improve breathing capacity. None of this was in any of my other fitness courses, actually. Advanced breathing techniques and so on.
Yeah, there's a little or no overlap from the Primal Health Coach Certification, which is amazing because both of them are quite lengthy. But just as we quickly spin through this, my favorite takeaway from the really popular new breathing research and best-selling books by James Nestor and Patrick McEwen. Patrick McEwen came up with this one-liner. He says, the secret here to breathing correctly, to manage stress and to get the best exchange of oxygen, carbon dioxide, is strive to breathe as minimally as possible through your nose only at all times for the rest of your life. That's how a human should breathe. And so when he says as minimally as possible, when I'm doing my sprint workouts, I need to do more than breathe calmly through my nose only. I need to suck air to the maximum, especially during the first 15, 20 seconds of recovery, right? So I'm opening my mouth, I'm sucking air. And as I show in the videos, when we put in the sprint chapter, I'm trying to quickly recalibrate, downregulate, downshift, as Brian McKenzie calls it, into more relaxed breathing. Because the less oxygen you suck in, the better your carbon dioxide tolerance is. And this is a whole new area of athletic and health science that has a beautiful spot in the course. And I think, we're on the cutting edge of all this stuff. And if you haven't delved into some of this new research and fun stuff about breathing, it's going to be a real highlight.
Oh my gosh, I love it. This was something someone wrote in asking more about kind of flexibility and movement assessments, and asked if we covered that, which we do. So chapter 5 is stretching, mobility, flexibility, balance, and injury prevention. Again,
that's chapter 6.
I'm sorry.
Wait. Oh, sorry. No, you're 5. Right. Yeah. Chapter 5.
Yes, we get into our rational benefits.
Look at that long chapter name. Oh my gosh.
I know. Static stretching and the role static stretching plays. Tons of material in here. Dynamic stretching, right? I know I'm going quickly because I'm trying to make sure everybody has a chance to watch the end of this. Hip flexor stretching and strengthening. When I'm working with people and we're trying to just build better movement mechanics in just about every lift, hip flexor tightness is a huge issue, especially for people that sit all day. And we're constantly trying to work through sort of lengthening and stretching out these hip flexors. So super important.
Speaking of that, Laura, there's two things most likely going on. And one of them is the muscle is tight.
Yeah.
And the other one is the muscle is weak. And so we should say tightness and or weakness. Yeah. And so it starts to get tricky. I had this happen to me when I was a collegiate runner and got injured over and over. And I was stretching my hamstrings for like over an hour per day. I was in a hamstring stretch because they were constantly aching. And they needed to be stronger, not just more flexible, but stronger. And so sometimes if you stretch incorrectly, or you don't really understand what the dysfunction is in your body, you can do yourself a disservice even by doing leg extensions and getting stronger quads if the imbalance is already there. And with hip flexors, we have these incredible assessment exercises that are, you can easily learn quickly and put a client through, to where if they can't do this, that indicates tightness. And if they can't do this one, that indicates weakness. And then here's how you do the correction. So that's that's really fun. And some of this material came from my good friend Tim DiFrancesco, who was the former strength and conditioning coach for the Los Angeles Lakers. And he was charged with taking in a draft prospect and putting him through his top secret assessment protocol, which he allowed me to see and film and put into this course. And so he's looking at this kid who the organization is deciding whether they should spend $57 million on to draft him in the lottery and pay him that contract, or is he going to get injured and bomb out of the NBA? And so he would take his clients, his players, through the assessment, but he did not tell them what he was looking for. Like, what I want to see here is a really tight core where you load up and brace carefully every time you do a lunge. He would just say, hey, hold this medicine ball over your head and do a few lunge walks for me. And then see those knees cave in, or the stomach, the back hyperflex because the stomach's so weak. And so we had some fun here where we show you on video the assessments, and then afterwards show you what we're looking for and the corrective exercises if you in fact flunk or show some inappropriate loading there. And they're so simple, like, hey, put one foot up onto an elevated surface and step up onto the bench. And it's like, sure, I can do that. That's no problem. But do you actually tilt your spine a little bit backward to get the momentum, because your hip flexor is not stable enough to load up and stand up in a vertical manner and put that second foot on the bench? And then, oh, by the way, how do you get down off the bench? And so when we start to, enhance our knowledge of these little nuances, then when you're working with a client at the gym or working with yourself on your own workout, everything matters. It's not just loading up the bar or going to the count of 20 and being really tired and high-fiving at the end. It's like, wait a second, how are you executing the warm-up? Are you showing some dysfunction out of the gate, doing the silly stuff? And that, to me, makes fitness a much richer experience than just kind of going through the motions and, oh, my warm-up's super boring, but I have to do it because my coach wants me to do this before I start running fast. No, everything matters, and every foot strike matters, and every nuance.
Yep.
And then you can start to, get this rich sense of satisfaction, even if you didn't crush yourself at some high calorie burning workout.
Yeah. I love all that. And I mean, you just did such an amazing job fleshing all this out, the circadian and whole health benefits of morning flexibility, mobility, and balance, right? For that client, if you can just do something for 5 minutes in the morning, what a great place to start somebody. Because if they're feeling better and more limber and more flexible and more energy just with 5 minutes of something like this in the morning, now maybe we've got some capacity to add a little bit more. We're getting into mobility, flexibility, and balance is built in here. The importance of balance, especially for those of you that are working with older folks. My father made me, he's like, hey, show me if you can like sit in a chair, lift one leg up, now stand on one leg. And I got up without a problem. He's like, dang, because he can't. He's, his ankles, his knees, his hips, all of it. And, it's, when balance is an issue, as people get over, there's a real chance for injury there. And so let's keep people strong. Fascial restructuring and reawakening, where we're getting into myofascial release and everything here. We've got a few minutes, so I want to make sure we get through all of this. This is something that came back to this functional movement assessment and corrective exercises. This was something somebody that's interested in the course was asking more about. Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, where we're doing a test and then trying to, and for those of you watching Laura's screen, when you see the video coming through, this multimodal learning experience here, there's a lot of text and it's a lot to learn. It's a very comprehensive course. That's why the tuition is well worth it. You have so much content here, and it's coming at you from different directions. So the video is in place in the course material. You'll hit the video because it'll help you to grasp all the stuff that's been written about, if you prefer to learn looking at video, which a lot of us do these days, I guess.
Of course. Now we're going to get into cardiovascular fitness and endurance training. Somebody else was asking, hey, is this going to cover endurance? Because that's kind of the area she wants to specialize in. So we're getting into fuel substrate utilization at various exercise intensities. I think we touched on this briefly in the fitness course. Yeah, that's right, Stephanie, that was you. Briefly in the health coach course, but not anywhere near to this depth. We touch on it a little bit, but nothing like the degree maximum aerobic function and aerobic threshold. This is another one that we address briefly in the broad course, the 180 minus your age, the Maffetone principle. But again, we go deeper here, monitoring your heart rate during exercise, maximum aerobic function test, actual way to test your progress, reevaluating and redefining cardio. Thank you, Brad. Evolving from the steady state cardio to more varied and challenging workouts. Like there's just so much more than, sitting on a treadmill for 30 minutes. Cardio and fat loss frustration. I would love for you to speak to this one a little bit, because this one was not in any of the courses that I have taken either. And this is a big one for a lot of the ladies that I work with.
Yeah. I mean, when you're training for endurance and doing it in an overly stressful manner, especially, you are teaching your body to shed muscle mass and preserve fat, because what you're doing is basically torturing your body with extreme endurance efforts day after day or week after week. And so this is the genetic signaling that occurs. And when you go into the gym and lift heavy weights and conduct an appropriate high intensity workout, sprinting, resistance training, whatever it is, you're sending the genetic signaling for the exact opposite. That is the building and preserving of lean muscle mass and the shedding of excess body fat. And there's a lot of research to support this. The X3 bar guy, John Jaquish, with the giant muscles, he is always publishing studies on his Instagram showing, ripping on jogging and endurance stuff. And I'm not going to go that far, because there is a correct way to train for endurance goals, and they're very, very popular. And so if you want to do a marathon or want to do a triathlon, you sure as heck better focus on this chapter, because we're going to teach you to do it without destroying your body, your metabolism, your endocrine system, your immune system.
Love it. Thank you for that. Okay, so this is, again, it's already 6:00, so we need to roll through here, but benefits and principles and strategies for high intensity exercise. Because there are people that are like, Mark doesn't like high intensity exercise. And I'm like, that's not what he's saying. He's saying it has its place and most people do it wrong. So we're getting into functional muscle mass, preeminent fitness objective. This is one of his beefs, I think, when it comes to CrossFit too, is just how much muscle mass some of these athletes are carrying that aren't necessarily benefiting them. My husband, Brad, is a soccer player. He'll be the first one to tell you too, when he was working with teenage boys that want to put on a lot of muscle. And he's like, hold on a minute. Do you want to put on a little muscle, or do you want to be a great soccer player? Because there's a certain amount of muscle at a point at which it doesn't benefit you anymore. And so we're jumping into that. I don't know if you want to add anything in particular in this chapter that you want to touch on: health span and high intensity exercise, optimal workout design, rest recovery, work rest ratios, resistance training concepts and fundamentals.
Yeah, so we did a whole chapter that's mainly philosophical, because then we're jumping into a sequence of chapters. And we're running out of time because there's so much more material coming up. But I want the student to realize that when you have this philosophical foundation and you understand the purpose of high intensity exercise, then you can conceive of a sprint workout or a weight training session in the proper framework. So that was a nice way to start this gateway into high intensity training and doing it correctly. Yeah. And Absolutely. Then we're going deadlift and squat. We're going for the bread and butter here.
Right. And, deadlift, squat, right? Then we get into resistance exercise, free weights, body weights, machines, kettlebell exercises. So upper body pushing, right? So you've got these body weight things, right? So upper body, lower body, and then upper body pushing, upper body pulling, machine exercises, kettlebell exercises to help you kind of round out some programming. This is where we get into sprinting and jumping exercises and how to actually develop a sprint workout.
And in terms of touting this course and tooting our own horns, you will not find anywhere a more comprehensive protocol for how to sprint correctly. There's simply, I've researched this for years. I've looked at so many different educational materials, and we put it all together here to become an expert in sprinting, learning from the very best athletes in the world and the best coaches. And I think that in particular is a highlight. And then when you jump to chapter 12, overreaching, overtraining, and burnout, this is the single most comprehensive list and description of symptoms of overtraining and overreaching that you will find in any book or any internet resource anywhere. And it's all in one chapter. It's a pretty long chapter. And some of these chapters are up to, 20, 30,000 words. So if you want to breeze through a quick fitness course, this is not the one for you, because it's a lot of studying. It's a lot of material. Obviously, you have access to the material all the time. But we are going deep into how to learn a sprint protocol that you can give to any client of any fitness level. And then same with the overtraining, overreaching. You'll become an absolute expert on these nuances that are little discussed. And it's just difficult to find everything collected into one resource. And so that's kind of what I did is, pull together my favorite articles and favorite experts from decades of learning about this overtraining stuff.
Exactly. So we've hit where my drip schedule stopped. So I'm not able to actually open these to scroll through them. But so let's just go through kind of the outlines here. So this is the outline in terms of sprinting, where you get into the physiological benefits, optimal duration, elements of an effective sprint workout, sprinting technique, so important, and suggested workouts, a place to start. We get into jumping, the ultimate explosive exercise. Totally agree with you. Suggested workouts. We get into mindset and peak performance, understanding that endorphin response. There's so many people that I know that go to the gym because of that endorphin. They don't realize that's what it is. They just know that they feel really good and their energy is really high. It's that endorphin response that we're getting from that. Ooh, central governor theory. I can't wait to read about that one. Central cooling system, a kinder, gentler approach to peak performance. Is there anything you want to add to in terms of comments on this particular chapter?
Yeah, like as I described at the outset, mentioning the training protocol of Kipchoge, and I also talk about Usain Bolt. This is important stuff to learn, and we can appreciate from their great performances that there's so much behind it and so much thoughtfulness and restraint and organization. And so I love to learn from those examples, because I think sometimes, especially in fitness, we overdo it on the scientific references, and we sound, especially non-athletes, that bug the crap out of me when they're doing a podcast or talking about their protocols that they recommend, and the science shows this and the science shows that. And I'm like, yeah, man, but I just saw the fastest guy in the world run around the track at Eugene, Oregon. And so I'm watching what he's doing and putting extreme importance on that, no matter what any scientific study that might counter that. So we have to look for inspiration to, what the greatest humans have done, and put that into the mix and weigh that. Really importantly, along with respected science. But the science is confusing to me, especially having been in this game for so long, and I don't trust it as much as I trust what the best guys are doing.
Agreed. So we get into something that we've been talking about this whole time, really, which is this whole sort of overreaching, overtraining, burnout, a temporarily adaptive state from inappropriate fight or flight stimulation.
Yeah, that says it all in the
right.
the heading, the section heading there. But that's what happens is you feel awesome, you're setting PRs, but you're basically burning the candle at both ends, and you're headed for disaster, or at least setbacks, unless you just like kind of wise up and realize, hey, I got to get my life back in balance. It's kind of like being a rock star from age 20 to age 30, and you're partying and you're traveling around the world and you're not sleeping much and you're taking a lot of drugs. And then you're going to like, oh, now I expect to feel fine now that I'm off tour and I'm going to be a natural, healthy person. No, you're going to have to recover from this binge of crazy behavior. Right. And not that I was a rock star when I was a professional athlete. I wasn't that important or that famous, but I kind of put my body through the same thing, where I just pushed too hard, overstimulated the stress hormones too frequently. And so I might as well have been on, the world tour with the Stones or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. So we're going to break down what those symptoms are, the symptoms of overreaching and how to remedy it. Overtraining and burnout symptoms and how to kind of recover from that. We're going to get into rest and recovery and downtime and sleep and the importance of all of these things, hydration, walking for recovery. This is the biggest thing with a lot of these type A personalities, the go, is getting them to understand that without the recovery, at some point, all the efforts they make in the gym are going to work against them. And then we have our programming chapter. Again, all this stuff is still locked down, so I can't jump in there. And then you have your final exam. So I had a couple of questions pop up that I just sort of typed replies in. I had one question about, so if you are already a Primal Health coach or you're already in the course, you do not need to buy the full Primal Fitness Coach Certification. What you're going to do is buy this course. You're going to buy the Primal Fitness Expert Certification. If you are already a PHC, you're going to buy this, but you will earn the full coach designation because you already have the coaching chapters. You already have the business chapters. For anyone that's on this webinar that is not already a Primal Health coach and you're buying just this course, if you buy just this, you will earn a certification, but it's going to be a content expert certification, the Primal Fitness Expert certification course. You will have to buy the coaching training and the business training to get the full Primal Fitness Coach Certification. The other question that came in is about CEUs. Someone was asking about NASM and ISSA. We are applying as we speak. Chloe sent in those applications on many of those CPT courses already to do that. Okay, so we're in the middle of that. You got to give us a little bit of time, but we are applying. We're going to also be applying at NCCA if we can, and some of these other organizations in terms of this program. So look, I mean, this is just kind of the primalness of the fitness side of things. If you're not already a coach, you're going to want the coaching chapters, because this is all fabulous for while you have access to that client in that moment, right, Brad? But then, what do you do when you are repeatedly coming up with a client who is just either not engaging, they're not following through, maybe you don't own the gym, maybe they're going home and trying to do this stuff, maybe they're continuing to overtrain, even though you have repeatedly talked about how that's not helping them. How do you bring in the psychology of truly changing behavior in order for them to actually accomplish what they need? That's what's in the coaching chapters and then the business chapters. Christopher is asking, is there any part of coaching training that incorporate nutrition and fasting and timing to coordinate with training? That's in the health coach certification. So if you want to, you can buy the Primal Fitness Coach Certification, that whole thing, and then buy just the health and nutrition sleeve from the health coach certification. That will get in there. And Brad is, yes, the final module, there you go, is dedicated to fat loss. So that's in there as well. What else? I feel like we've kept people a little bit over, but gosh, there was so much to talk about and you just have so much to share. So thank you so much for that. So I encourage all of you, if you have any other questions, to just hit me up. And if I don't know the answer, I'm going to send them to you, Brad. Okay. I'm going to just send the question over, but you can reach me at Laura@primalhealthcoach.com. You can access the courses. Here's just our, oops. Did I lose you guys? Hold on.
Still here.
All right, good. There we go. Okay. I'm going to put in the chat for those of you that haven't looked at our website in a while, we've got a whole bunch of programs that are coming out. The Primal Fitness Coach and the Primal Fitness Expert are going to be underneath this primalhealthcoach.com/programs. You'll be able to see both of those. And then from there, you can go to the landing page of each of them. There's a little button there that will allow you to learn more or enroll now, or you can reach out to me directly and I can help you figure out which one you want. Anything else you want to close us out with, Brad?
I just enjoyed that sneak preview through all the material. Wow.
I know.
It was like we gave you guys a lot of tantalizing journey through the whole course. So I look forward to seeing you in the student rosters. And again, we have that personal support, which I think distinguishes us too. Like, you send us a question, you got some issues, you got some challenges as you're studying. Mm-hmm. Love to hear your feedback and work together to promote this movement.
Yeah, look, your feedback is really important too, guys. I mean, those of you that have been in the Primal Health Coach realm with us for years, we listen. We make changes when people point things out to us. That's part of the reason why so much of our content is written text, because it's easy for us to go in and edit and add to text versus having to reshoot a whole video over again and things of that nature. So we really do listen. The whole reason we wrote this program is because you guys were asking for it. We had people asking for a primally aligned fitness certification. And there were some that addressed pieces, right, Brad? Like you could do a kettlebell cert, or you could go to MoveNat or Primal Play or some, but there really wasn't one program that encompassed all of it, encompassed kind of just why you need to just move more generally. If you've got a client that's not moving, to just send him in to do some high intensity strength training without just parking farther away and walking into the stinking grocery store first. Come on, let's start with the basics, right? So we layer it all. We do address play. We do address sprinting. We address strength training. It's all wrapped up into one course rather than having to buy a bunch of different certifications that all roll up into kind of what we're talking about here. So I want to thank Brad. If there's any other questions, jot them in here real quick, but otherwise I'm going to let you guys go because it's 6:15 or 6:14, whatever. But Brad, thanks.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks everyone for hanging with us.
It was absolutely fantastic. Thanks again, guys. If you've got any questions, just hit me up, Laura at primalhealthcoach.com. Thank you. Thanks, Brad. Bye.
Da, 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 da.